Was the August 12, 1967 ambush against Buford and Pauline Pusser the result of a conspiracy? Keep watching. And welcome back to Buford Pusser, the other story. And today, what we're going to discuss is whether or not the ambush on August 12, 1967 was a conspiracy, or was it an act by a single individual, or maybe an individual and an accomplice, or was it all just fabricated? In his book, The 12th of August, W.R. Morris would write that the ambush was orchestrated by Towhead White from his prison cell, and involved in the actual ambush itself were Kirksey Nix, Gagliardi of Boston, McDaniel, and George McGann. Of course, this inspired the movie Walking Tall. Since that August morning of 1967, we've been told many versions of how the ambush, which took Pauline Pusser's life and in which Buford Pusser was wounded, took place. Now, according to the movie Walking Tall, there were two cars that pursued Buford that morning, full of state liners, armed with machine guns. Now, it was a very dramatic movie, and that ambush was a very dramatic scene within the movie. However, no one at the time seemed to question where the actual proof was that the ambush occurred, as was shown in the movie. The next to come up with a conspiracy theory would be Robert Broughton in his book, Ghost Tales of the State Line Mob, in which the characters in the ambush vehicle would include W.O. Hathcock and Bobby Floyd. While all of these stories were interesting and entertaining, none of them provided any proof that backed anything that any of these people had to say. As for me, I think it's only logical that you look for proof. And that's all I've ever tried to do is find people who were connected. I couldn't find any of the individuals that any of these people or the movie mentioned. And you have to ask yourself, why is it no one else has? In my search for information and proof, I could only find two people that were actually there that morning, Pauline Pusser and Sheriff Buford Pusser. Ironically, Pauline was the one that was shot and killed. So, where does that leave us? We have to ask, was this a conspiracy by any of these groups that were previously mentioned? Or was it the single act of a single person, Buford Pusser? Now, the thing we all have to remember is the morning of the ambush and thereafter, Buford could not identify his attackers. So, where did all these other names come from? If Buford couldn't identify him, with him being the only survivor of the ambush, who would be able to identify who it was that murdered Pauline? There were a number of people in McNairy County, including law enforcement officers, who questioned Buford's story. They had nothing to go on. They couldn't find anyone to connect and positively associate with Pauline's death. But yet, for one reason or another, it seems as if state officials were unwilling to look at Buford as a suspect. And then, of course, the movie Walking Tall came out. He became a national hero. As a result, people believe that Buford was exactly that. And this would go on for decades. And for so long, it seems like I've been the only one out here really looking for the truth, really trying to find the true story. While other video creators, podcasters, all seem to go with the same old walking tall story without offering any proof whatsoever that what they are saying is true. And of course, there's another problem. Since I started this video series, there's other video creators that have started doing something similar. The only difference is while they're trying to tell the truth, they go into some areas and discuss some things that are a little bit far reaching for me. And when I say it's a little bit far reaching, they're doing so without actually having any evidence to back what they say about some of these things they accuse Buford of.
Be sure and subscribe and hit that bell so that you'll get notifications of new videos when they're released.
Now, if you followed my video series here on YouTube or on my Facebook page, Buford Pusser, The Other Story, I know that people refer to me as a conspiracy theorist. I prefer just to be referred to as a researcher. I mean, after all, you look at all the videos that others put out, they will say that I'm out here reaching for things, but yet, as I see it, I'm the only one trying to provide proof of what I say. All they're doing is repeating the old story, the old legend, without any factual basis. I don't object to anyone being a conspiracy theorist. I mean, after all, look at what we've learned recently. I, for one, for years, have never believed that Lee Harvey Oswald necessarily was a lone gunman in the JFK assassination. And the JFK Records Act of 1992, when the president signed that records ought to be released by a certain date. Now they have been. Finally, Trump released all the JFK records. And what did we find? All these people like me who believed that Lee Harvey Oswald was not a lone gunman, and I believe that he may not have been a gunman at all. When you go through those records now that they've been released, they confirm a lot of your thoughts. I mean, you look at it, a splinter group of the CIA was involved with the assassination, as it appears, along with other groups. So basically, we've been misinformed for a lot of years. And thanks to a lot of researchers that got out there and started digging, it took a lot of us by no surprise that Oswald did not act alone and may not have acted at all. Same thing happened with Martin Luther King and Robert Kennedy. The same files have revealed some really good information there. When it comes to Pauline Pusser's murder, I don't believe that there was an active conspiracy prior to. I think it more or less occurred during the process. I say this because of some of the calls that Carl Pusser made. And I think that as he realized what was taking place, he was covering for Buford, but I don't necessarily believe that he knew that Pauline's murder in advance. Now, after the fact, when Pauline was dead, I do believe that there was a conspiracy to cover it up. And I say this because of the way the investigation went. I do know the TBI was trying to look into the case, but they were running into a lot of obstacles. And I think a lot of that was from Governor to be Ray Blanton, who was a U.S. representative at the time. And, you know, he had quite a bit of political power, and I'm sure he had some influence on officials in McNairy County. I also think that Buford was the one who initiated the act of taking Pauline's life. Whether he pulled the trigger or if he had an accomplice, he's still responsible. Of course, I know that a lot of people will disagree with me, and that's fine. I mean, we're all entitled to an opinion. I think mine is more research based than a lot of the Pusser supporters. And those that disagree with me, I wish you would just try to produce some information to prove me wrong. It makes me no difference other than I just want to see the story told correctly, and I don't believe it has been in the past. And that's based on a lot of the things that I've shared on this YouTube series. We'll probably never know how Pauline Pusser really died. If it was a matter of a conspiracy by a group of state liners, as Buford alleged, or if it was a lone act by Buford, possibly an accomplice. Pauline Pusser would be the only one that could tell us that, and she's gone. All we can do is wait for District Attorney General Mark Davidson to make a statement. Hopefully, he will soon, and reveal some of the information from the TBI's findings. And like I say, until then, those that disagree with what I have to say, do as I do. Just if you're going to disagree, just try to offer up something to back your opinion. I guess that's it for today. So just remember, as I always say, truth has no agenda. And thanks for watching.